Hi, and welcome back. In this lecture, we'll be discussing Key Insight 9, aligning customer experience metrics with true drivers of customer value. Well, what is customer value? Well, customer value is basically used to describe a consumer's strong relative preference for a certain subjectively evaluated product or service attributes. In other words, it measures a product's or service's worth and compares it to possible alternatives, and also it can be defined as the factors which increase the worth of the products and the services. Well, a customer's value can be defined in a very simple formula, which is basically the perceived benefits minus the perceived cost. So now let's look at the perceived benefit aspect. If you look at the perceived benefits, these are a few things that customers value. So starting off with functional values, so these are basically a product's or service's ability to perform its useful purpose. So things like performance and achieve specific outcomes which the product or the service promises to deliver. Then there are things like social values. So this involves a sense of relationship with other groups by using images and symbols. So for example, iPhones, Apple products and things like that, and even shoes like Nike and other types of shoes. So it creates this social culture, this social grouping that you want to be a part of. Then there are emotional values. So this is the ability to invoke an emotional and affective response. So for example, customers become passionate about the products that they're using. And if you look at brands like Louis Vuitton, you feel that you're a part of a luxury brand and that you're being treated like royalty. So you're getting a strong emotional response when you're purchasing products and services from certain brands. Then there's intellectual values, so generated by a sense of novelty or simple fun, which can be derived by inducing curiosity and the desire to learn more about a product or a service. So for example, if you look at brands like Lego, not only you can use the user manual or look at the package picture and then build the model that is already there, or else you can use the same pieces and create a new model of your own. And finally, we have conditional values. So these are derived from a particular context or a socio-cultural setting. For example, things like physical context, social context. So basically the value of a product or service depends on the context. For example, things like Christmas cards, you can't send it all year round. You can only send it during Christmas time. And even products like wedding gowns, most probably you will only need it once in your life. Then there are products like popcorns at movies, and then services like ambulance services which you only need in an emergency. So now let's look at how these perceived benefits which the customer values actually translates into customer experience drivers. Well, if you look at the functional values like measurable quality, performance, reliability, and also things like the support network, we can understand the customer X drivers to be things like strong quality assurance processes in the products and services, and also things like industry leading product and service design processes, selecting the right attributes to create a delightful customer experience, and also agile management of the value chain. So practicing concepts like just in time, where the raw materials arrive to the factory floor just in time for manufacturing. Then if you look at the social attribute, so things like build identification with a social, ethnic or class group, emphasize lifestyle, development of interaction between people, and build bonds with groups. We can identify several customer experience activities. So things like correct customer segmentation, so you group the customers accordingly to things like demographics, what their interests and preferences are, so that you can really customize the experience and tailor exactly to the group's requirement. And also building social communities with customers. So basically building great experiences so that customers convert themselves to brand ambassadors and advocate your brand's product and services to their family and friends. And also creating a sense of purpose, so attracting and retaining customers through purpose. So now let's look at another few attributes. Next we have emotional. So making customers feel good about themselves, attachment to a product or service, produces a change in how others see the user. So brands like Ferrari, Lamborghini, Louis Vuitton and brands like Range Rover and things like trustworthiness, profound customer experience and also aesthetics. Basically the look and feel of the product. So if you look at the customer experience drivers, it's basically customer segmentation based on psychological dimension of the customer base. Then there are other attributes like marketing based on customer segmentation and also great consistency across omnichannel customer experiences. Next we have the intellectual aspects, so things like novelty, fun, evoke interest in the product or service, interest in learning, and also produces a willing suspension of disbelief. So if you look at the customer experience activities, it's design thinking, putting the customer needs first when designing products and services, and also ongoing continuous innovation and experimentation to create innovative products and services to create a delightful customer experience. And finally, we have conditional perceived benefits. So produces meaning in specific context tied to particular events, tied to holidays, and also demonstrates social responsibility. So customer experience activities would involve things like agile business operations, maintaining transparency with the business processes and how things are manufactured and sourced, and also commitment to do the right thing always. So for example, if you look at things like Christmas cards, highlighting the fact that the paper is either recycled or sourced from sustainable sources, and also promoting that the business practices strong business ethics and treats all the stakeholders in an equitable manner with dignity, honor, and respect, and also is socially responsible. So, what are the customer values? So, when it comes to things like perceived cost, so what do customers consider as a perceived cost? The first and the most obvious thing is the financial aspect, so the monetary aspect. So, this includes criteria such as the purchase price of products and services, operating cost of products and services, service cost, switching cost, and things like opportunity cost. So, opportunity cost in very simple terms is the value of what you have to give up in order to choose something else. And also things like switching cost, meaning switching to an alternative product or service, then there's service cost, maintenance cost, and all these things. Then we have the time aspect. So includes criteria like finding information about the product or service, travel to acquire the product or service, and also the learning curve. So how long will it take you to master the product or the service? And finally, we have the psychic aspect. So that includes criteria like the effort required to find the product or service, the effort required to use the product or service, and also concerns about the risk of the product or the service. So now let's explore the different customer experience aspects of perceived cost. So first we have the monetary aspect. So reduce purchasing price, reduce operating cost, reduce maintenance cost, opportunity cost, and things like that. So in terms of customer experience, how do you deliver it? So things like world-class design, operational efficiency, reducing the waiting times, and also strong quality control and assurance, and also making the product accessible and making it convenient and easy to use. Then we have the time aspect, so reducing the time searching for the product or service, reducing the time to purchase, reduce learning curve, and other similar attributes. So how do you deliver those in terms of customer experience? Well, you can deliver them by creating great omnichannel distribution strategies, online-based information sharing and customer support, simplified user manual, and also creating a great design which is very simple and easy to use and has a very low learning curve. And finally, we have the psychic aspect, so simplified use, feeling comfortable using the product or service. You can do that by creating customer experience activities like getting feedback from customers and actually incorporating that feedback into product and engineering design in order to create superior designs and clear operating instructions for your products and services. Well, that's about it for Key Insight 9, aligning customer experience metrics with true drivers of customer value. I'll see you on another lecture.